Thank you for joining us today at Miniature Wargaming Labs. Today we'll be painting Batman from the 3rd edition box set. And he came together really quick. Takes under a day to put this guy together. But let's talk about the paints we used. So I primed him standard Mechanicus gray. And I pretty much used all army painter on this one. So I used deep blue, ultramarine blue, electric blue, matte black, glossy black. You don't have to use the glossy black. You can use the matte black if you want, but I like the glossy to get this nice shiny ring on the bottom. Used Daemonic yellow because you can see a touch of the utility belt in the fold of the cape there. Used ash gray, tanned flesh, kobold skin. I used 2 washes. Now these are from Citadel, but Army Painter makes comparable. So Nuln Oil and Raichland Fleshshade. So real fast and easy model put together, mostly dry brushing, and it'll look good in the end. So we'll get started painting on this one. So my Batman is primed standard Mechanicus gray, and to start off I'm going to use some Army Painter ash gray, and I've put some in my palette. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint his bodysuit. Don't have to exactly be neat at this point. I'm just working from the inside out. But one thing you should note is you can actually look down the suit and see the top of the utility belt. So we want to make sure to get that. And you can kind of see it if you turn them upside down and look through the edge of the cape. Alright, so we got that started. Now the rock he's standing on, I'm also going to paint the ash gray. The stones down here I'm going to leave the Mechanicus gray. So we'll cover this up. Now we're going to move on to Army Painter's deep blue. And as you probably guessed, this will be for the cape and cowl. So just one thick coat. Don't worry about it being smooth and even yet. Just going to put this on. Now we don't want to touch the grays on either part there, so at this point we'll be a little bit more careful. It would help if I got it on camera. Now we've got our deep blue done, and now when you paint the deep blue, make sure to rotate and turn the model around, because there's going to be some places that are just nearly impossible to get to with the brush. So if you look at like the fold in there, you're going to have to get some of this stuff inside. Just, you gotta, like, I don't know how you get a brush into some of these places, so you have to get creative. But what you'll notice about this is a lot of the blue is at this point, you can see the brush marks in it. That's fine at this point. We're going to deal with that. We're going to do that by getting some ultramarine blue. And I want to lighten up blue colors, so I'm going to take a dry brush here. Get some of the ultramarine on my brush. Brush a lot of it off. And we're just going to run this blue like that. Not too worried about getting it everywhere. That means the deep recesses of the cape are going to be that darker deep blue. Just want to be careful not to touch the areas I've painted gray, which shouldn't be too much of a concern. So I'm running perpendicular, so the folds of the cape are going this way. So I'm going to run the brush so it just catches the high end. And I'm going to leave more paint on the brush than I normally do when I dry brush. And that's because I want more of the surface area covered, not just the ridges. Now, I have got the blue on there, and the next step is to add some liquid talent, or as I call it, Nuln Oil. And so, for that, what I'm going to do is, I'm trying to reach over and grab this brush. Alright, I've got a sloppy brush. This is a brush that used to have a nice sharp point, and then I messed it up. So now, I'm going to wet it a little bit. And I'm going to liberally apply Nuln Oil. Now it's going to be tricky with Batman just because it's such a complex form here with all this flowing cape work. So I don't want any air pockets to form, so I'm going to turn this guy upside down, get a good look there. Push this all around, trying to find every little nook and cranny. And the nice thing about Nuln Oil is it'll give it that dark gothic look to the color and the shape. You can already see the cape work is really popping out with the Nuln Oil. Try to get it in here. That's why I use a sloppy brush, because these bristles are going to get all bent around. Make sure to turn it from every angle and get a good liberal coating of it. And you want to move before it dries in place and creates these little streak marks. And we'll put it on the ash gray. That'll give us the tint we're wanting, and I'll pop out the bat symbol, which we're going to touch up later. And let's get this rock. And I'll put a bunch of it on the base here. Make sure you get the head evenly, the area around the wings. Now I poured some more Ultramarine blue. Now that this is dry, and I'm going to use a different type of dry brush. Not because you have to, but just to show you the difference. What we're going to do, we're just going to lightly go like that. And you can see with this brush we can't fit in some of the nooks and crannies here. But that is okay, because that's why we did the darker blue in those nooks and crannies. So at this point, we want to get a lot more of the paint off when we dry brush. And remember, with your dry brushing, you can just put on a little paint and just add until you get the color to where you want it. Now we can see at this point how my guy's looking, and he's looking pretty good as Batman with the blue. But the joy of this model and using dry brushing is just the sheer number of folds. So you can actually keep on pushing this a little bit farther. So I'm going to take some Ultramarine blue, Now you don't have to do this if you're not comfortable with it, but I'd like to. So I'm going to take a smidge of blue there. So I want to kind of make a 50-50 mix, and I've got some electric blue. And I put a metal rattle in there. What we're going to do is kind of lighten it up. Make a lighter blue, so I can take the back of my brush here, and we'll just mix that together. So you look at it and say, that's still going to be a bit bright. I might get up there eventually, but I want to slowly step the colors up. Oh, that was deep blue. Doggone it. Well, let's see what that'll do. You got like 3 different blues. That made more of a gray. So you can see the model here is coming along with the blue. Still kind of dark here. So what I'm going to do is take some ultramarine blue. I just want a drop of that. And I just want to lighten it up a touch. So I'm going to take some electric blue. And just put a little touch of that in there. I'll take the back of my brush here. I want to use this dry brush. I like the effect it was going for. Notice I didn't get some of the deep recesses because it was too big. But that actually works. So I think, let's see what that looks like. I'm going to put it on. I like that. I like that. So that was kind of, if I had to say, that was 1 part electric blue and 2 parts ultramarine blue from the Army Painter line. And I'm liking the blue color. So don't be afraid of mixing your paints. And the number of swipes with the brush really determines how much of that color sticks to the top. And say I can't really get my brush into this tight area, so a lot of that back there stays that darker blue, creating that, forcing you to make that natural shadow effect. Alright, now I mixed up some more, but this time I reversed the proportions. It's more 2 part electric blue and 1 part ultramarine blue. So we're going to see what that looks like. And each time we do this, we just put a little bit less on the edges. So this is at the point what we do is we kind of take the model, turn it this way, and we look, where does the light really reflect off the top? Like, where's the light source coming from? And that way we just hit the top edges of it. Make it look like the light's falling on the model. And a lot of this stuff underneath we won't touch, we'll just leave it that darker. I definitely want to make sure to get around the shoulders and the head, because this will make it pop out from the rest of the model. So this is a good example. So this curve's kind of hitting, so we'll just get the edge of that curve with the lighter color, and then this part which is sticking out from the rest of the cape. So you can play with the light when you do this. Now I'm going to use just some pure electric blue, and we want to be careful at this point because this is more of going to be like a highlight cover. I haven't cleaned my brush. I'm not using a lot of the dry brush, so we'll just get the edge right there. So this is more saying, okay, this is the top of the model. This is where the most light's gathered. And then we just feather it down. So, kind of like that. You just do that to taste. Just get like the edges of the cape here. So look at that. I'd say we're done with the blue. Now you can see using dry brush we've really accomplished a lot very quickly. And now I'm going to move on using a sharp brush, and I'm going to use some matte black because that's what I've decided to do the bat symbol for. So I'm going to dip my brush in, I'm going to wipe a lot of the paint off, and I'm just going to use the size of the brush and my superior eyesight. That was kind of a joke there, but I want to paint the bat symbol black. It's a very shallow part of the mold. And just be patient. Touch it slightly. Just use the side of the brush to find that part of the model and just glide along the top of it. Because it's the bat symbol and a slight ring around it. I'm doing this because I'm waiting for my dry brush to dry. Excellent. Now I've gone back to my ash gray. I got my dry brush here. I had to wait a little bit, wanted to make sure it's perfectly dry. And what I'm going to do is just hit some of the parts of this exposed stone. Just a light feathering touch of the dry brush. So you want to look at, like, make sure that it's covered in broken concrete dust from whatever building it fell off of. Not too much. There, just a hint that you got something there. You know, if I had to do this model again, I would take some texturing, like a little bit of sand and sterling mud, and make it look like more dust and debris went across the base. I was just thinking about that. That would have popped beautifully when I painted. Now I'm going to keep on using the ash gray, but I'm going to shift to my tiny brush, and what I'm going to do is just put some reflective lights like that. And then just follow, see, just take the brush, if you wipe a lot of the paint off, you can actually kind of outline, get the bat, just a little bit of gray on him. It pops up a little bit more, but not too much. There. Now it looks like his armor is gray and the light is shining down on top of it. So that looks good. So you can see a little bit more of the musculature they actually carved in his abs. You just get a hint of it there. Now we're going to use some Army Painter Daemonic yellow. And I think I pointed out before that you can see just the hint of his utility belt. So we're going to take our pointy brush. And it's tough to both see and show, so if you want to skip this part, feel free. So what I'm going to do is just draw a line across the top. That was it. But what you can do is, if you're ever looking at the model, it's almost impossible to see with my light source here. There's the hint of yellow. You can actually show the person that you took that extra step there. Oh, and I dipped my pinky in blue, and I got it on the model. That happens. Let's go touch that up. Now I'm going to take some tanned flesh from Army Painter, and once again turn to my sharp pointy brush. And what we're going to do, make sure, see that was the paint. Now, let me get back to that. So fortunately I dipped my finger in electric blue and touched the model, so I had to run highlights to mimic where my fat finger went. But you know, it adds an extra layer of detail, so happy accident. But we'll just, they actually have in the mold the outline of his mask, so you can just use the side of the tip of your brush to follow that mold line around his face. Just move very slowly and methodically, and you'll get this guy's face looking really good. Oh, if I only did it on camera. Okay, so yeah, you can see the side of the face there, and you just run the brush down, fill it in. Oh, mother! Okay, let's see if it's okay. Now the tanned flesh is dried and we're ready to go into some Raichland Fleshshade. You don't need to use very much of this. It is a delicate model with delicate lines there. But we want to use our very sharp brush to kind of just put Fleshshade where we want. You might even not notice. There we go. So this will darken the recesses of the skin just a little bit. I like to put it on there because it kind of makes it dark from where the flesh joins the blue. There we go. We'll wait for that to dry. Now our model's coming along. We're almost done here. So I'm going to take some Army Painter Kobold Skin. And I only put a drop of it in my palette because that's all I need. And I just want most of the paint off. What I'm going to do, more paint off, is just like highlight the chin, because we got like a nice ruddy look with the tan flesh and the wash there. So I just want to outline some of the jawline and the lips, Gonna bring that detail out. There we go. Just a little touch of that. Let's make sure. It's hard to see the right side of his face because of the way the cloak goes, the cape. Now you're saying I took it off its handle. Now I'm ready to do something. I'm gonna put on some Vallejo Glossy Black. Now if you don't have a glossy black, that is perfectly normal. You can just go ahead and use the matte black we used for his bat symbol. But I like using glossy black because when I set it on the table, it really pops out. I'm going to take a nice thick brush because I want to kind of just candy coat it. I want a nice thick gloss coat around. For some reason, I just like the way it looks on my Batman models, and I do it for these guys. I guess it kind of gives it more of a chess piece look to it. But even if you're using the matte black, a nice thick coat around there. Like I said, I want it to look candy coated. Alright, now I finished covering the base, and I'm going to call this model done. I just want them tabletop ready. Do a little dry brushing, little highlighting, some washes, and you can actually finish this guy in under a day, especially if you have a hairdryer. Move that process along. So, wonderful model, and glad to have bought into the game. So go check out Knight's models. Really good models. It's resin, a little fun to work with, but you know, you'll get the hang of it. So good luck to you, keep on painting, and we'll see you next time.